All right, so just do a little round of the charts for this Euro session. So, all in all, we've just seen quite a big sort of reversal from what we sort of saw in Asia anyway. Everything just dropped like a stone, particularly the metals. I think it was, just having a look now, 93 down to 86 in a matter of minutes, pretty much, actually, with silver. And that's made itself, I may as well show it on the chart in a moment, but almost back up to 78%. The gold's come back up to 61%. So they're really giving back a lot of it there. And similar, not so much, but we have seen Aussie across the board push back up here. This particular chart right here is AJ on the 1 hour. This I still feel that we could potentially. I like the break of this channel that we had last night. I was watching it on the 4 hour, and to me, this is a nice little double top here. You could say that this double top has probably potentially played out in terms of just sort of measured move, which is basically coming down the bottom there. So yeah, you could say that that double top there has kind of played out. The question with this AJ here is, among a lot of other things, is this just a little bit of a like everything else at the moment buy absolutely anything that dips? We've certainly seen some sort of drops, but if you look at these drops here, none of them are actually taking out the prior lows. Even though we're getting some sharp pullbacks here, it still didn't take out those prior lows. Here we had that little up down and then bang sell down here, and we saw this sell down here very similar to what we saw with gold. What we saw with gold back in October as well. Anyway, there's the point of here and now is potentially a setup for a continuation of what would be this little bear flag here. The underside of this support through the top there, which is obviously, on this is the 1 hour, but it was obviously the 4 hour as well. If this holds and we start to see a drive and take out these lows, you do have a bear flag coming through here, and price target actually comes perfectly in line with a couple of levels that we had sort of marked from, what is it, a couple of months ago. So from December, sort of carrying right through there. So for me, I'm not completely sold at the moment because everything seems to be in just like close your eyes and buy any sort of dip, excuse me, mode. But if we have a look at the 4 hours, RSI is turning. The 1 hour does look like it may want to cool a little bit. Maybe underneath this, I'll say, look, just clear of this little area because it's kind of broken up and sort of consolidating between a smaller zone and the bigger zone. If we can get a move, where's this little thing? I use this that often, actually, to tell you the truth. Shows why. Possibly a move somewhat like this, breaking this little sort of temporary zone where we got set up here, in the idea that we have this bear flag continuing down here into that zone. I put that stop pretty much around sort of 60, 30. So there, so yeah, pretty much 30 point drop off there. So the idea here being that obviously we've come up here, we've tested. Anybody that was trying to buy for this continuation to move up high here, basically sort of, weaker yen yet again, can basically exit those sort of positions, and we could see a little bit of a flow-on effect coming down to the bottom side there. Obviously, Aussie is a bit back on the bid at the moment, but I still think this is a plausible trade. And as you can see, it's a fairly decent 2.85 on the risk reward there. So I'll see how I'll come back to this one a bit later, so see how this is played out. Flip across, of course, we got gold, and this was actually a very good trade from last night because I did that little sort of a euro setup trade, and basically we were sort of into this little sort of ascending triangle here, and I said, look, what we need is this big candle coming closing out the top. That's going to give us confirmation. We didn't get that, and obviously we sold down. We had that little that bit of sort of tariff. What do you want to call it? It didn't happen. Tariff debacle, tariff letdown, where they were supposed to be giving us a sort of ruling from the Supreme Court on the tariffs, basically, to say whether they're legitimate or not. And it's supposed to come out last Friday, 2 a.m., didn't come out. It's supposed to come out Wednesday, 2 a.m., didn't come out. That'll just come out whenever it comes out, and that I think the longer that they just sort of put it off, the more it kind of just becomes a bit of a bit of a non-issue. It's not that it will be a non-issue, but it's just that how many times can the market wait poised and then nothing kind of thing for it all. But certainly both times of it afterwards, we have seen gold appreciate off the no decision. So if they do pick out another date, which of course they will, I'm not quite sure off the top of my head right now, but if they pick out another date and they say, hey, look, here's when we're going to give you the court ruling and doesn't happen again, most likely you could just buy gold through that period and yeah, just sort of wait for it to appreciate up there a little bit. Coming down, as I said, we had big sort of sell down early in Asia. Nice little retest, push down here, second effort, third effort, really clipping and sort of, it's just cementing these little areas that we got over here. The bounces were coming in a little bit lower, but as I said, pretty much since we had end of Asia, you can see just basically it's just drifting up here at the moment. So for me, it's still sort of the idea that potentially we could get this move to the downside here, but it's all predicated on a break of this sort of like, 45.80, 45.75 area. Till you can get a candle sort of closing down out underneath here, something like to this effect. There's a down candle, something like this, where we can see that it's doing what these other candles couldn't do, where they've just turned into big wicks and then sort of like whoop, rejected straight back up. Once we get that sort of candle there, that'll be our confirmation, and we do have a fairly decent sort of potential move to the downside there. It could be sort of 30, $40. It was a pretty clean, straight move down here. So even down to low 45s, I think would be a reasonable sort of target with this. Is as to sort of where you could probably sort of be looking to enter this thing at the moment, we are, as I said, coming back up around the 61% at the moment. But the thing is, you're in a massive uptrend. So realistically, you're fighting against the tide. So if you think this is going to sort of come back down, obviously these are your sort of safer bets where you've got the confirmation down under the bottom side here. Apart from that, you could potentially see this thing dribble back up to the highs over here. Then we haven't really got any data coming in. We got a bit of manufacturing data coming out tonight, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the one that sort of really gives us the sort of clinching move with the metals. But certainly at the moment, the bounce has been quite strong. But you still have to acknowledge the fact that it was a pretty hard and sharp, fast move down there. It's just a matter of sort of like, is it enough to sort of take it out of what effectively is just a large range? And you can just pop that up the top over there. Obviously, I've got the sort of a couple of sort of choppy levels around the top over here. But really, as I said, if you want to see upside, that's what you need to see. But with a up candle, a blue one, you need to be that big close out the top there because even as it came back up into this area here, just got slammed straight back down. So for the time being, we're just stuck in this little range. Aussie, pretty much if you sort of have a look at what I said yesterday with that trade, we were around this point here. So you break the bottom, you're going to come down to the top here. It tried and it tried and it tried again. It didn't quite get down there because remember the big one that we're looking for here is this. We want a candle close underneath 60. Candle close into the 50s. If you're looking topside, you want a candle close into the 67.30s. But basically what I said yesterday was that we've got this level through the middle here and it's just oscillating around it. And you can see how many times it just reacts to it over and over and over again. And I said sort of like if it comes up here, you sell it. If it comes down here, you buy it. I was short through this period here, which is a little bit frustrating because I thought, here we go, we finally got it. And then, of course, turns around, just turns on a straight buy push straight up to the top side over here. So, like with the little tinfoil hat on, you could kind of say that maybe these things are about to sort of break to the downside. These are one last little push up hurrah. I think sort of if you get back up above 67, 67.05, 67.06, you could see realistically this sort of just do this kind of stuff, but dribbling up to the top side because effectively it is in a range at the moment. That's what I said yesterday. It's just oscillating around this middle here, which I have to also say is that this has been capped once and twice, and we're back here over again. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a push back down, test the 90s area, maybe even a little bit overshoot, maybe early 80s or so. But I think that's where you're going to get your decision. So with this, it's either going to do something like this, where it comes back here, we see the buyers, like they've just been driving it up here. There's no real sort of levels of sort of like, it's not like here's the level, up, here's the level, up, here's the level. This is just straight up. So know your leg. This is in leg one. So you found resistance, possibly. We'll assume we're going to get resistance here. Pull back, you're going to find support. Support could generally be a previous resistance. This is low time frame kind of sort of stuff. It's one out, but you're going to get another push. And if you get that kind of move, so if we come back down here and say you go to 88 or so, and we sort of see a little bit of a sort of buying support start to form through here, and then it drives up for another push and takes out this high, presuming this is the high right now of this move, that's your confirmation, and you're probably going to be looking back up to around sort of 67.20s there. Alternatively, you could see this thing, one test, two test, and bang, fail down. And if they continue to hold this level of 67, which is, round number, it's sort of mental factor of, okay, now it's 67 cents or so. But certainly if they hold that, and we see like, a couple of attempts here, watch DXY, even though Aussie's not part of DXY, DXY is right at the cusp of a breakout. So if they get a breakout on DXY, Aussie won't be excluded from that. That's what's going to drive Aussie back down to these levels over here. But it still remains the same. You need to break these wicks to get your sort of confirmation of what's actually happening. For the time being, it's really just in this little sort of sideways grind here. And cool. Finally, just have a quick look at silver as well, because silver this is what I was waiting for. This negative divergence breaking through here, and it just got pummeled down here. It had its second effort, came through, respected the chart very well. 38% of this move up over here. We had a horizontal through this area here. I sort of did a video. I do a video in the morning as well, obviously with a bit of analysis. Where it is right now is obviously sort of coming back up here. It is technically through this channel. Now, if you take the grand scheme picture of everything, yes, okay, this is just a blip, it's a pullback, it's like that kind of thing. But you got to sort of say what happens when these channels do break. And say at one point, here's your base, your support, there's a break. It doesn't change the overall integrity of the whole move, like it's still moving up overall. But once it breaks, it certainly does see a little bit of a pullback. And you can see it through here as well. Obviously coming up, we're coming up through here. It's coming up at a pullback. So, it's the idea is obviously you have a wave up, you break it, price is punished, you pull back. You break up, price is punished, you pull back. So the idea that this has just sort of gone up and that this now is all just going to be the time that's different and we go up to 100, 110 is lower probability than the idea that price needs to be punished for the fact that it did break through here. So if we have a look at this, this is a good little example here where it broke through, came back up, tested the underside, and then we saw the move come down under here. So I don't think this sell down's done. I think there's too many people just buy the dip, blind buy the dip. Look, you got to admit that that's a big chunky bounce up. But the thing is, it's obviously in a very strong bullish trend. So yeah, you're going to get those bounces. The same thing I said this morning. But the point is that if you look at this here and you say, okay, it's 61%, I still think the fact that it broke this channel and it's retesting the underside here, put in a new high and go up here like a straight up, then I don't have a clue what's going on. But most likely, I would say, because we've broken this trend, we're in a bit of a back test mode. I think the trade is really coming back down to this sort of 89 level. I think if they come back down to 89, so structurally, if you come back down to 89 and it holds, then potentially you could be doing something more like this and you could be seeing a bit more of a range. Or alternatively, obviously 89 doesn't hold, then you're tackling these lows, and then that's the trade that you're going to get. But the idea that this just comes up here and just goes, oh, where's the little thing going? This just comes up here and just goes like that. I don't think this is a very low probability move. It's a big bounce, and it's a super bullish with everything, yes. But if you just go off the way the price action flows go, like you got to acknowledge the fact that this thing just dropped, what was it, nearly 8% in, what was it, sort of like, I think 40 minutes or something between 12 o'clock. So it was just when China opened to 12:30. So in half an hour or so, half an hour? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, half an hour or so, this thing dropped 7%. It's definitely a testament to it that it has bounced, because obviously it's just an incredible sort of bull mode, but you still have negative divergence, even though that's kind of played out a little bit now. I still think of these three scenarios, I think a move back to 89 is the tester. If they hold 89, then you look for potentially a range to set up through here. or wherever kind of thing, but more or less start to go up and just go sideways and consolidate, and that then could be the thing that then lines up for your big move up over here. That could be the case in that sort of with a bit of a consolidation. But remember, it's gone $10 in one direction in 4 sessions. So the likelihood that it just continues on a vertical sort of path is, I don't know. Yeah, you feel almost a little bit sort of silly, sort of saying, oh, I don't think that'll happen because whatever you don't think is going to happen, it does kind of happen. But of these three sort of possible scenarios, I still think two of them sort of are predicated on the idea of coming back to test 89. That'll be the tell. If it holds there, well, then we know that we're sort of just going to consolidate at the highs. If it breaks down, then we can start to say, hey, are we going to get a little bit further of a pullback here? All right, that's it from me.